Hi, Weirdos! You are listening to and maybe watching Keep It Weird, the podcast for all things wild, unbelievable, witchy, cursed, morbid, supernatural, eerie, and everything in between. Each episode we sit down together from across the country. Oh, we're so far away. We hate it. And we talk about something weird. And this week is wonderfully weird and whimsical, as always, as we go deep, deep down into the rabbit hole, discussing some uncomfy, mind-blowing theories and truths from secret groups that might like to scare the crap out of humanity. Very casual, relaxed chat as always, but a whole lot of fun. And then we will load up our suitcases and head across the pond for a quick trip to a magical yet dark historical spot that might give you powers, might be haunted. You decide. We love to leave it up to you to decide, weirdos. It is another fun, wild, and woolly show for you, and we want to break it down for you right now. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. My name is Lauren, and this is my lovely, perfect, beautiful, intelligent co-host, Ashley.
Good morning, weirdos.
And there are no triangles.
You should buy this at our merch store, www.keepitweirdpodcast.com/merch. Oh, and you have the Gabby one.
I know, I was gonna say, even though it is like the cursed white mug that sometimes ruins my lighting, I wanted to show it. I was like, maybe if my face like stays fully in it. It's our Gabby mug. Can you remind me who made this for us?
Susie Shercliffe.
That's right.
Drew the picture of Gabby flipping us off from the corner as she interrupts our recording. Mm-hmm. And then my cousin Chad had the mugs made for us.
So obsessed. It is still my all-time favorite.
Same.
And we love Sweet Gabbers.
We love her. I miss her so much.
Ooh. Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning. It's a morning recording. We're fresh as a daisy.
Have my raspy voice going on. That is not morning rasp before I get attacked. It has just been a week of rasp, but it feels appropriate.
Would you be attacked for a morning rasp?
I don't think so. I actually feel like the listeners would be into it. So
yeah,
that's fine.
They'd be like, it's sexy. Hey, do you know what today is?
What?
Well, for the listeners, it is Friday the 13th.
Friday.
I hope you guys are all getting flash tattoos and adopting black cats and avoiding broken mirrors and walking under ladders. Like
all of the usual things. And like just keep an eye out for Jason. Like we don't
know where he is or when he's going to show up again. Yeah, we did try and plan like a Friday the 13th themed episode, but we've kind of covered it. We did like the unluckiest people ever. We did the history,
superstitions, yeah.
So we have like really great topics prepared for you guys that are not Friday the 13th related, but I think you'll still like them a whole bunch.
It still feels like a way to celebrate the holiday.
Yeah.
Like it's still gonna be weird and spooky and fun.
Yeah, agreed. Real quick, I wanted to bring to y'all's attention, in case you didn't know, Netflix announced 5 more episodes of Unsolved Mysteries are coming next month.
How did I not see this?
In October. Yeah.
Good for them.
They just released some in August. They were pretty great. They were it was very true crime heavy.
Yeah.
Not a lot of, which here's the thing about Unsolved Mysteries True Crime Edition. It can be a little frustrating because you watch this whole story unfold. You watch someone get horrifically murdered. And then at the end, they're like, and we don't know. So if you have any information, it's like, oh, God, okay.
Call us immediately if you know. I struggle. I do struggle because I voice that very clearly on the show that I really like to close the book on a true crime story. But gosh, they are still so well done. I did really like this last
They
one.
are. I'm hoping that the October group of episodes might be a little bit more on the spooky side. I'm hoping for another alien or UFO episode.
Yes, we need more aliens.
Some ghosts.
I know, I really hope. But also still so happy that more are coming.
Yep, 5 more. We get 5 more. Also, if you are sort of jonesing for Unsolved Mysteries. If you haven't checked it out, Unexplained with William Shatner is
good
a
stuff.
banger of a show. I was talking with a listener the other day. Shout out to Bailey. What's up, Bailey? And we were just talking about how much we love that show and how like William Shatner's delivery of all of his lines give us life. So check out The Unexplained.
I mean, he's perfect.
Yeah, it's a really great show. Sometimes some episodes suck. Like last night, Joe and I tried to watch like
just keep it real.
I'm sorry. Like last night, we tried to watch the like Acts of God episode, and it's all like, was Noah's Ark real? And it's like, no,
it wasn't. I'm here
sorry.
to tell you.
If anyone reads that biblical story and doesn't take it as an allegory, you're dumb.
I know. It's like, listen. I feel like we do a good job of talking pretty openly about religion, and like we've even like covered historical things in the Bible that it's like, yeah, this probably did happen. This seems like a historical moment that did. But Noah's Ark, honey, that was teaching you something. That was a story. That was a lesson. That wasn't real.
It wasn't real. The Great Flood was probably real. There was probably a time where people thought, oh, this is the end of the world because the world is flooding. That. Absolutely. Did a man and his family gather 2 of each animal on this planet and put it on a boat? And they were the only survivors of this apocalypse, and then they repopulated the earth because God was mad? Probably not. That's probably not what happened. So yeah, so sometimes they cover stuff like that and I'm like, skip.
But they're trying to cover it all. They're trying to
Sure. I mean, we cover dumb shit too. Listen.
We sure do.
Sometimes you have to cover dumb shit. I also wanted to announce real quick that the September issue of Haunted magazine will feature yours truly.
It's Ashley.
I wrote a really, really sick article on the possibility of psi powers. It's probably a lot of stuff that you guys have heard me talk about before.
Because you're real ones.
Because you're real ones and you listen to me talk every week somehow. But I think it's going to be a really good issue. I've seen like a bunch of the different like women that are featured in the issue. And I've seen literally 8 articles that I can't wait to read.
You're like, I'm so interested in that. I'm ready.
Seriously, buy an issue of September's Haunted magazine. It's also beautiful. Like I'm gonna frame one. Anyways,
the magazine cover looks so beautiful. Ashley sent me a little screen grab. It's so exciting, and I was fangirling so hard when you sent me the announcement. I was like, oh, I know somebody famous,
OMG.
And like finally, a brilliant girl, host and producer, is being honored in a magazine. What's next?
Blink. What's next for me?
Published author, magazine.
My mom was like, when are you going to write a book? And I was like, when are you going to write a book? How much time do you have in your day?
I was going to say, like, hey, listen.
I do want to write a book, actually. Like, really bad.
And I feel like you've said this before, but like a book could be over time, over the years. So I agree with Pam. Just do it. Start on it now. And
start on it now. And then in 5 years, I'll have
a book. You want, honey. Yeah. And then we'll see you in 5 to 7 years. So get on it. I'm very excited.
All right. I hope you guys are still around in 5 to 7 years when my book comes out.
Okay. They will be.
Hey, guys.
Hey, everybody. Welcome
to Keep
to the
It
show.
Weird. We're going to get real weird real fast. Lauren's going to go first, and I'm so excited to see where she's going to take us.
This is a fun one, y'all. And another edition of Where in the World is Keep It Weird Going? Where in the world is Keep It Weird Going? Hey. Where in the world is Keep It Weird Going? Where in the world is Keep It Weird Going? Where?
Where are we going?
That was one of the most fun we've ever done on that intro. The rasp really came in handy in that moment. It was very fun.
Yeah. You had a deep voice like Joy Chapman.
Oh my gosh, our deep voice queen. I loved when you reposted that clip, by the way. That was so fun. Joy, we love you. Where in the world are we going? We're heading over to London.
Oh boy, here we go.
My accents are always spot on.
We need to get you a dialect coach.
I know, truly. Thank God I'm not an actor. They would just be like, listen, like your acting was actually okay, but your accent was so bad we have to fire you. Like you're out. And it's even worse because the drummer of my band is English, and so like I hear it often.
Oh God!
And you'd think I would have like
you have a constant reference. No,
no, never.
No.
Sorry, Carl. Okay, we're headed over to England. Hello, good sir. And we are going to the town of Knaresborough in North Yorkshire, England.
Cool.
It is known for being this riverside, lovely little town. It is next to the River Nid, has lots of little shops and restaurants and sights to see going along the water, some amazing markets. Like it just
sounds cute.
Obviously a lot of history, as a lot of places, but adorable. Also home to a place called Mother Shipton's Cave.
Whoa.
Which I absolutely want to visit.
That's gotta be a witch, right? Mother Shipton?
Mother Shipton was a witch. Yeah. And a prophetess, which we love talking about prophecies, and we just did on our last episode, so it felt very appropriate. So first, I just want to talk about the attraction before I get into the really fun history. Mother Shipton's Cave is England's oldest tourist attraction. Like, this is not just in Knaresborough, not just in like North Yorkshire, all of England.
And
it is
England
the oldest
is
attraction.
Old as fuck.
But like it has been bringing people in for so long because the word got out back in the day before, we had the interwebs and even newspapers, I'm pretty sure. People have been visiting since 1630. And the area is gorgeous. Like nowadays it's like this beautifully landscaped park with little tourist signs and markers, and you can bring your kids. There's like a little cave pirate ship playground that you can go on, and they've made it a whole thing, but it was gorgeous on its own. There's a beautiful cave. It is Mother Shipton's Cave, and there is also a petrifying water well and this huge petrified water well wall next to it that is in the shape of a skull. So it's phenomenal.
What?
It's just like this beautiful landform that you can go visit and has now been made into a park.
Love it.
Why did my notes just have a heart attack? Okay, so the cave. You first get there and you go to the cave, which the general story that they give you is that in 1488, a baby was born in this cave known as Ursula Santail. And she became known eventually as Mother Shipton. After a few years living in the cave with her mother, she eventually was brought back into town by another family and then returned to the cave later in life to be an old witch.
Be an old hag.
And she had magical powers. She had a lot of prophecies that were known to come true, which we will get to later. And it is no amazing underground cave network. Like it is just this big cave, but it is a beautiful cave and you can go in there. But the really cool thing is next to it, there is a petrifying well. Again, England's oldest visitor attraction, first recorded by the king in 1538.
Damn.
But then started having visitors as early as 1630, like once the word got out. But kings have talked about it before, saying this is a magical water well.
Okay.
And it is because everyday objects can be put in the water and turned to stone. So the same way that like a stalagmite, like cave rock could form, but those can take like several years, things can enter this water and form in 3 to 5 months. Some objects even as soon as like just before 3 months, but the example they use is you can take a teddy bear, put it in, and in 3 to 5 months it will turn to stone, which like for that object to turn that quickly is pretty crazy. So it feels like magical water. And nowadays the museum attached to the park has stone teddy bears that you can take home, and it has lots of other objects as well, and even objects that celebrities have brought over the years that now are just sitting in cases that you can go look at, which is super fun. And so for centuries, people have believed that it was miraculous healing water. The early 1600s samples of water were examined by a physician, and his report was that this was a miracle cure for any flux in the body. So people are, flocking to get there and use it.
I feel like maybe it's not safe to consume.
If it's turning things to stone.
If you were to ask me just like my opinion right off the bat, don't drink this water. Seems bad.
I would say don't drink it, yes. And I think people still to this day would say that. But over the years, that was learned that, no, don't put it in your body, but it's okay to touch it. If your hand is in there for 2 seconds, you're not turning to stone. But,
okay, fair.
So it's become a wishing well, which is now part of the attraction. You go, you put your hand in the water for a few seconds, make your wish. and then you take it out of the water, and then you shake your hands. They have to shake almost completely dry, or, like stand there for as long as it takes for all those drippy drips to come off. Think of your wish again. So it's very much like witchy moment. You are willing it into
you're
the
meditating
universe.
on it.
You are setting intention. You are meditating. And then once your hand is dry and you have thought about it, then you can walk away and your wish should come true. And that's kind of how it's evolved over the years, of people just coming and being like, do I drink it? Do I take it home? Do I pour it over my entire body? Should I go in it for a bath? And now it has turned to this. If you come as a
touch
tourist,
it with your fingies. No more.
Just little fingies. And you can take home little bottles of it as well, not to consume, but just to have as decor, the same way that you've brought me like soil from Salem, which I appreciate. It's just your little witchy wishing well water that you can bring home.
That's immediately what I thought of, because I was like, isn't it funny that like we have, just comparatively, we have these two different tourist attractions for witches. We have one where it's like a celebrated witch, and then we have one where it's like, remember when we murdered all of these people for no reason?
Isn't that fun? Come on over.
Come on in. Here's some
in,
dirt from where they were hung.
Oh, I know. Well, and Mother Shipton is kind of like a half and half of those. Like, she was revered, and like people really believed in some of her prophecies, but then at the same time, like, she was absolutely persecuted and kicked out, and we're going to get into that.
Great.
But so at the far end of the site, just to finish like this whole tourist attraction, you have the cave, then you have the petrifying well, and then there are these beech trees. They call it Beech Avenue because there are these very super straight growing beech trees that usually do not grow this way, like the stick straight way that they do, but it's because of the petrifying well and the cave, and there's also a gorge, that the trees grow this way. And they become so famous and like such fine trees that their details are held by the Forestry Commission as a source of breeding seed. So they have preservation orders on them, like no one can touch them. They are very special trees, and you get to walk through this magical forest. And you also get to see a couple of like king's estates like that were sold long ago, but they have some history to them. So if you want to go into some old ass houses, you can do that as well.
Yeah, I do. And actually,
we sure do.
More than anything,
we love old ass buildings. So go into some very cool old historic buildings, and at the very end you have the museum and the petrified items donated by celebrities. And there's also a shoe left behind by Queen Mary when she visited in 1923 that is sitting in a case. And I was like, ooh, is it petrified? Like Googling, I was just like, no,
just a shoe.
It was just a shoe, but isn't it cool? She left it and we have it. Like, all right. But hey, to each their own, and you might be excited.
And Lady Gaga left a hairbrush there once in 2012, and we also have that.
And we kept
next
it.
to
It's not petrified, but has a little blonde hair sticking out of it. So that is the attraction. It's cool and beautiful to see on its own. Obviously, the well is fascinating and feels very magical, even though it's really all from like the rock minerals being deposited into the water. It's a scientific thing
it's
why
the
petrifying
witch
is happening, but I'm going to go on record as saying it's magic. So I wanted to get into Mother Shipton a little bit. Most people visit the cave and think the history is just that it was a local witch who lived in a cave, and like that's cool on its own, whatever. But as the legend goes, Mother Shipton's real name, as we said before, was Ursula Santail. She was the daughter of Agatha.
Agatha and Ursula. Wow.
Agatha and Ursula, I know. Agatha was a local girl who found herself pregnant but unmarried at the age of 15.
Oh boy.
And you know that didn't go over. And she refused to tell the identity of the father, like, also what a real one, could have thrown him under the bus, but actually he wouldn't have gotten in trouble.
What year was this? Because I feel like having a pregnancy, happen at 18 is like, you old bitch.
No,
wait until 18. Oh, 15.
She was 15, so she was actually at like the proper
prime age.
The prim and proper age. But because she was unmarried, it was like trash, witch. And she didn't give up the father's name. She was like, listen, I'm strong. I'm independent. Like, here we go. I'm not going to tell you anything. I have no parents to support me, but let's do it. So she was, of course, shunned and banished from the village. She found shelter in a cave on the outskirts of Knaresborough by the bank of the River Nid and below the Knaresborough Castle. So already just sounds like witchy moment. And then on a stormy night in late 1400s, so it was 1400s into 1500s, 1488, thunder banging, lightning crashing.
Oh my God.
The wind blowing. She gave birth to Ursula, the witchiest night it could have been. And shortly after her birth, the abbot of Beverly took an interest in Ursula, and he placed her with a local family and was like, you shouldn't be living out in a cave with that old witch. Like, why are you with Agatha? And her mother was sent to a convent where she unfortunately died just 2 years later. Very sad for Agatha. She was just trying to live her life in the cave, and it's like, hey, I was doing fine. So now Ursula is just living back in the town where she doesn't really want to be. And she was known to have a large, crooked nose with a bent back and bow legs. And so everybody made fun of her. She already lost her mother and then like has these physical ailments. I don't know, maybe because of being born in a cave with no one around to support.
Yeah.
But she was, even though she was kind of picked on for her looks and known as a strange and unusual child, she was very bright and had an intelligence that kind of blew everyone away, which we love that. Prove everybody wrong. And she only attended school for a short time, but then the taunting got so bad that Ursula eventually kind of got driven away, and she started to hang out in the woods near the cave where her mother gave birth.
As one does.
She was like, I'm just going to be off the beaten path. And eventually, she didn't even know about the cave because she was so young when she was brought into town, but just naturally, the cave kind of called to her. So over her life, she eventually found her way all the way back to the cave, and she preferred this solitude. So even though she was still going into town every now and then, I know, she was like, I am going to be an old witch out here in the cave. But in her visits to town, she did briefly meet a man and then marry him. His name was Tobias Shipton. That is where the name Shipton comes from. Some say she had bewitched him because she was way too hideous for him, and he was this handsome nobleman.
Damn. This girl just had like a crooked nose. Like
I know,
I guarantee.
And I'm like, and her legs they were a little bow-legged.
Crooked nose and a little bit of a limp. And they were like, she's so hideous. No man could ever enjoy her.
I know. Like, she wasn't covered in warts. Like, what do you want? Jesus. Like, people have crooked noses.
She needs a nose job. Literally, Blake Lively needed a nose job too, okay?
That is true. So, apparently this hideous beast somehow got the man, but it could only have been by her witchy powers. But sadly, their life together was short. He died 2 years after their marriage, and she again was just like, nope, I'm done with this. I'm retreating to the cave. And she became the oldest woman in the village living in that cave. But people did still come to see her, even though she was ostracized, and it was believed like she had either bewitched her husband or was the reason that he died at such a young age. So she just couldn't win. But people believed that there was something special about her because of her intelligence and because she would kind of speak in like poetic words. She would speak in rhymes, and some of the things that she was saying, people just were really latching onto. So they would come to her and be like, can you tell my fortune for a hot minute? Like, I feel like you might have some magical powers, especially because of this water that's existing over here. But she was known by the local community, like kind of just off to the side to like say some prophecies. So some of the things that she was able to tell, sorry, I'm flipping back and forth once again, so I got to get to the prophecies. It started as small things. So she would note like minor occurrences that would happen locally before her predictions got a lot larger. But it was one of the things was it was a prophecy that water would come over Ouse Bridge. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong to people in England. And it would reach a windmill that would be set on a tower. And you would hear this claim at first and be like, okay, lady, that's why you live out in the cave. But then when a water system was introduced, bringing water across the bridge in pipes that reached a windmill, suddenly people were like, wait a second. She knew. Another one of her local prophecies included the destruction of Trinity Church, which would, as she said, fall in the night till the highest stone in the church be the lowest stone of the bridge. And not long after this statement, a terrible storm fell upon Yorkshire, destroying the steeple of the church and causing it to land on the bridge. So that is when people started to come around, and it even extended far enough to reach King Henry VIII. He is known as referencing Mother Shipton in a letter to the Duke of Norfolk, in which he mentions the Witch of York that he had to speak to. So through letters and different diary entries, that's kind of how we're able to
track her history.
We've connected some things, and that royal family was even getting into it. There was a famous writer who had a diary, Samuel Pepys. Pepys, I'm probably saying it wrong again. His account of the Great Fire of London includes details of hearing the royal family whispering about Mother Shipton's predictions of such an event saying that she knew this was coming. And so he was overhearing this and saying, like, okay. So her reputation was growing, but so too did like this belief in all of these prophecies. So people were coming to her from all over. And in one of her greatest prophecies, this is like one of the ones that's written about the most, she was talking to King Henry VIII and kept telling him that his right-hand man, Thomas Wolsey, was like the worst, basically. Like, I don't want to go through all of her like long ass poems, because really it is a lot to read through them. Like, she was poetic, but like all of her prophecies are like
she was poetic, but boy was she rambling.
She just went on, and it was like,
sometimes you can say 3 words instead of 30,
and we get it. Like, we get what you're trying to say, but so it all boils down to like, your dude, like, he kind of sucks, and like he's was gonna lower class before he got to you, and like he's gonna stay lower class is essentially what she was saying, which I kind of love the shade thrown. And so she was like, he should not be your chief advisor, like, get this Wolsey guy out of here. And in a pamphlet dated in 1641, one of the earliest surviving records of her predictions, she was foreseeing Thomas Wolsey's fate at the time of his demise, after he had fallen out of favor with King Henry VIII because he didn't secure the annulment to the marriage of Catherine of Aragon. So, like, big slip up. On a journey between London and York, he died from natural causes, and this was exactly what Mother Shipton had said. She was like, listen, bro, you are going to die before you meet your destination. Again, that is the easiest way to say it in her long poem, that like, you want to go to York, but you won't make it. And he didn't, and he died. And that was like one of her biggest ones that people talked about. And it was like, do not mess with her. And there's other ones that are a little more like, a little more vague, but of course, it's similar to kind of the other ones, even that we were talking about
prophecies ever
last week. We're like, every prophecy, the end of the world. Some people say you can decipher her poems to say she predicted the internet, all kinds of things. But either way, people were into it. People believed it. There are, historical records of it. And a lot of it is, I heard whispers, or, I saw this point in a letter. So do with it what you will. But we love a witchy prophetess, outcast to the cave, but just living her magical life. Could it be because of the petrifying well? We don't know, but that is Mother Shipton, and you can go visit Knaresborough in North Yorkshire, England. Go check it out. There's a very like summarized version of her story on the website, and like all the fun that you can have there. Have a family affair, but we love a witch.
I love that. So what happened to her? She died?
She died in 1531.
So a little bit ago.
Her prophecies, just like a little bit ago. But her prophecies lived on. I mean, obviously people were, finding accounts of it in the 1600s, like diaries written while she was alive, but then not found until later, or, letters not discovered until then.
People
and then things
talking about her.
Yeah. And then things were coming true in the late 1600s that were like, she was talking about that in the 1500s. So. She died at too young of an age, but she was a witch living in a cave, and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think she had health insurance, so
I don't think she was like seeing anyone on the regular to take care of her ailments. So the petrifying well can only do so much.
Love her, love Ursula, love the petrifying well. Didn't know petrifying wells existed until this moment.
Me either, and I'm kind of obsessed with them, and I really want to visit it if we ever to keep it weird to London, England.
My coffee's cold.
I know, so is mine.
Well, bitch, are you ready to fall?
I'm like terrified and ready.
Down the rabbit hole. This is a deep, deep, deep rabbit hole. Starts with a premonition, leads to the CIA, big surprise.
Always.
And ends with an ancient Turkish dance.
I could never have predicted that's where it was going, but that's why we love Ashley and her rabbit holes.
So how do we get to the Turkish dance from a premonition? Let's find out, shall we? We're going to start in 1979 with a man named David Booth. So in May of 1979, David Booth, a totally normal guy from Ohio, started having, well, up until this point, totally normal guy from Ohio, started having a recurring dream. Every single night when he slept, he would see a large American Airlines jet attempting to take off, but then sort of flipping over and crashing into a fireball.
No.
Once he reached the fireball portion of the dream, he would wake up drenched in sweat in a total panic. And he had this dream for 10 consecutive nights. And it was so vivid and terrifying that he started having panic attacks throughout his days because he was so anxious to go to sleep and experience it again. And also he was like, what the fuck is happening to me? This has never happened before.
Right. What is this?
It got so out of hand that Booth ended up calling the Federal Aviation Administration and reported it to them.
Damn.
And the FAA dismissed his concerns because, of course, they did. Who wouldn't? Jack Barker, who was the former public affairs director of the FAA, basically said, we took the report, but without more information, there's not much we can do. Like, no location of the airport, no flight numbers. We can't stop air travel across the entire United States because a guy had a dream. But,
right.
We took his report seriously. There's nothing we could do.
Sure. Write it down.
Like, I don't know.
We'll make note.
So on May 25th, 1979, he had the vision again. And for whatever reason, he couldn't quite put a pin in it. He knew this was the last time he would have that dream. He also knew that it was going to happen very soon, and this time it was going to be real. Like, there was just something telling him, like, this is not a dream, it's a premonition, it's about to happen, I'm not going to have this dream again. So he got up that morning, he went to work, and he said he was at work for maybe 15 minutes before he got a phone call. A McDonnell Douglas DC-10 American Airlines Flight 191 crashed upon takeoff in Chicago O'Hare International Airport, killing all 258 passengers, 13 crew members on board, and then some other people that were in like a warehouse that it crashed into.
Holy shit. Okay, first of all, what year did this happen?
1979.
I was like, why do I not know about this? And also, gross, Chicago, American Airlines. I'm like, I'm terrified of all the connections in my life.
I know, too close to me.
Too close. Ooh. Can you imagine getting this phone call after?
No.
Anyway, continue.
No,
I
couldn't. So even when he was being interviewed for a TV show 25 years later, he was crying. He's been racked with guilt for half of his life because he can't figure out, one, why this happened to him, and two, if he could have done anything to stop it.
Yeah. But what can you do? He did what he could, calling them, but it's like, it's my dream. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, check your planes.
I think it's pretty common for people, I've had premonition-esque dreams, and they've all ended up being like, but why? What am I supposed to do about this? And like, it's troubling. So, he did call the FAA, but again, what were they supposed to do? And I am going to post a clip of that interview in the show notes. I don't know what TV show it's on. It seems like an Unsolved Mysteries type show, but I can't place it and I can't find any information on it. But the interview is in the description of the episode. Now, in learning of this story, I was thinking, like, I've heard of American Airlines Flight 191, but I wasn't sure why. Whether it was like an unsolved mystery, if there was a conspiracy theory involved. Those were the most likely scenarios as to why I would have heard of this flight, which says an awful lot about me as a person.
Love that for you. You are who you are.
I looked up the plane crash. No conspiracy theories, no unsolved mysteries were found. But It was, and still is to this day, the United States' deadliest aviation accident ever, aside from terrorist attacks. Like, this is...
I wondered, because that's huge.
Huge. And because of this crash, flying is safer today. The short version of what happened is the DC-10's left engine fell off the wing during takeoff. The full story involves various mechanical complications, a horrific plane design. I don't even think they make them anymore.
It was like, I've never heard of that model, because I now check my plane's model before every flight because the Boeings are having some troubles lately, and I'm like, I will not board this. So I'm like, let me get an Airbus ASAP.
Seriously, Boeing literally sends people to space and then they get stuck there and they're like, well, I don't know. Money, please.
Money, please.
Money, please. We don't have to have a good product, but we will take your money. Yeah, and bad communication also that left the pilots unprepared to save the plane and its passengers. But what led me to fall further down the hole was one of the passengers that died in this crash was a man named Itzhak Bentov. Bentov was a Czechoslovakia-born Israeli-American scientist and inventor who had a pretty impressive career in biomedical engineering. He also happened to be a mystic who wrote a pretty famous book called Stalking the Wild Pendulum on the mechanics of consciousness, which explores consciousness and how it relates to our physiology.
Obsessed.
In fact, one of his inventions, of which he had several, including, but possibly most importantly, diet spaghetti.
What?
What?
Where?
Why is this not on the shelves?
I want my diet spaghetti immediately.
One of his inventions was a seismographic device used for recording a heartbeat, specifically the aorta's reverberations. And using this, he was able to show that during meditation and controlled breathing, the echo off the bifurcation of the aorta is in resonance with the heartbeat, and the body's system becomes synchronized. That resonant beat is 7 cycles per second, which corresponds not only to the alpha rhythm of the brain, but also the low-level magnetic pulsations of the earth.
I'm obsessed.
Wowzers, bowsers.
With that. And it shows that meditation is truly grounding you, quite literally.
Quite literally, to the ground,
to
the earth. Also in Stalking the Wild Pendulum, along with further works, Bentov lays out his theory on collective consciousness.
That's what I hoped this was leading to, because I was like, this is all just sounding like the collective. We are all connected.
All of us. Collective consciousness, for anyone who hasn't been listening to our show for the last 8 years,
where you been?
Is the theory that consciousness actually comes from outside of our bodies. It is not generated in our brains, but actually our brains are more like radios that pick up the signal of consciousness. We're all connected by this consciousness, which is connected to the earth and everything on it. It's a very beautiful concept. But how interesting is it that this man who dedicated his life to attempting to explain and prove that all of our consciousnesses were connected died on a plane crash that an unrelated man dreamt of in his consciousness?
I don't even know where to begin.
Pretty weird. Pretty fucking weird.
That's weird. I can't. I feel strange inside. Like, everything, this story is just batshit crazy. And like, why is this the first I'm hearing of it also? I feel like we say that every week. It's like, who forgot to tell us?
I know. Every time we record an episode, like, I'll be done with my notes and then like we'll be about to record, or maybe we've just recorded and I haven't started on the next episode. I'm like, what happens on the day we run out of weird? So far, it's never happened.
Yeah,
so,
we will never.
I'm not going to worry about it until that day comes. But here's the thing, not the end of the rabbit hole, because...
That's right. We get to a dance. It ends in a dance.
It ends in a dance. And we're not there yet. Because something else Bentov was famous for, probably his most famous in the woo-woo world, is his participation in the gateway experience. Do you know about the gateway experience?
I do a little bit because of my really
TikTok.
Solid news source TikTok. Yes, thank you for knowing me. Yes, the gateway process, is that the same? Okay, yep. But I don't I obviously don't know enough, so please educate us.
Well, the Gateway Experience was exposed to the world in a declassified 1983 CIA report. The Gateway Experience is a training system designed to focus brainwave output to alter consciousness and literally escape the restrictions of time and space.
We love it.
Okay.
I just want to do it.
I actually do too, and I'm going to.
I know, I'm nervous, but like I want to.
I'm going to try it. Now, you can read all 29 pages of the report with one exception, a missing page that is extremely sus, which I will get to.
Convenient.
I will post the CIA document link in the show notes as well, but I will give you a quick little crash course in a simplified version. Monroe, the Monroe Institute, Robert Monroe. Does that sound familiar? Probably. You have TikTok. Okay.
So I know, I'm like, yes. Is it because I'm on TikTok for my whole life? Yes.
So in the 1950s, Robert Monroe was a radio broadcasting executive, and he started to notice that specific sound patterns had an effect on human beings, starting with like some sound patterns could make you more alert, some could make you more sleepy. And then eventually this expanded into like different states of consciousness. So in 1956, he formed a research and development division inside his corporation specifically to study sound's effects on human consciousness. By 1958, he's having out-of-body experiences. He actually wrote a really great book that I have.
Of course you do.
Who knows where it is? I'm not going to worry about it. Who knows where it is? Okay.
I'm dying. Like, who knows? I haven't seen it in years. We believe you have it, because I promise every listener will be like, of course you have that book.
I do, and I had it before I even read it. Like, I was reading this, and I was like, that book sounds familiar. Oh, I fucking have it. So, by 1958, he's having out-of-body experiences. He wrote a book called Journeys Out of the Body. This was a little bit later in 1971. I so recommend it if you are interested in out-of-body experiences, and astral projection is fucking wild.
Yes.
By 1962, his radio production company moved to Virginia and renamed itself Monroe Industries. By 1975, he's starting to register patents on audio techniques specifically designed to stimulate brain functions until the left and the right hemispheres become synchronized. He calls this hemisync.
Hemisync. That's fun.
It's fun. And he claims that it will improve your mental health and possibly trigger altered states of consciousness. The Monroe Institute is who created the Gateway process, and they sold it on cassette tapes at the time.
I love that.
Which is adorable.
Just on cassette. How to alter your state. I like it.
Eventually, we're not sure when, but we can assume somewhere around 1983, the United States Army and the CIA becomes very interested in the Gateway process.
Oh, were they?
Oh, were they? Big surprise. The CIA report titled Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process, which provides scientific framework for understanding and expanding human consciousness, and essentially how to produce out-of-body experiences and perform astral projection. This document was not declassified until 2003. Sure. So essentially what the Gateway process is, it's a series of tapes. They're guided meditations mixed with different frequencies that when combined will sync the hemispheres of your brain. So the way they describe it is they use the allegory of a lamp and a laser. Any normal given day, our brains expend energy like a lamp. There's a lot of diffusion. It's a little chaotic. It's not focused energy. It's just sort of like glowing from our head. While under hemisync, when your hemispheres are synced up, the mind produces a disciplined stream of light, more so like a laser. Or like last week when you were when the light was coming at you. So
yes. Okay, that's the laser.
When we do that, when we produce that stream, the mind is primed and ready to receive. Maybe it receives like psychic, like intuition. Maybe it gains the ability to leave the body. In order to practice the Gateway technique, all you need are the tapes, which crazily enough, you can access online.
That was going to be my question. Like, can we get to the tapes? We can hear
literally
this audio.
anytime you'd like. You can perform the gateway process.
That's what we want to hear, everybody.
At home. But you do need a pair of headphones. The headphones are important because how it works is HemiSync puts a single frequency in your left ear and a contrasting frequency in your right ear. And apparently these frequencies are like barely audible. They're mostly subliminal, but it puts the left brain into a relaxed state and the body into an almost sleep state and then syncs up your hemisphere, supposedly giving you the ability to alter your consciousness. Not only that, your blood pressure will lower, your heartbeat will sync with your brainwaves and the Earth's natural waves of energy. Apparently, it's a fantastic form of meditation that a lot of people practice.
I mean, I like the sound of it a lot. It sounds like a very relaxed, hypnotic moment. Yeah.
But that's level 1.
Okay.
Or focus 1, as they call it.
Oh, no. Do they get really scary? I'm nervous.
Once you get to focus 12, supposedly you can literally obtain feedback from alternate dimensions. By focus 15, you can supposedly travel to the past. By focus 21, you can travel into the future. Okay? So...
Ooh.
Huh? But don't get too excited.
Well, I'm also like, do I want to see the past? Do I want to see the future? That's what I'm not sure. I don't know.
Do I want to talk to other dimensions? I don't know.
I really just want to see Wilder as a baby one more time. Like, if that's all I want to obtain, I just like really hope they can give me that.
He was a really cute baby. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, he's a cute boy, ears. But his little baby ears.
It's different.
Remember when he came out with an alien head? He was our little alien baby.
Oh. Little alien guy. I know. So I'm like, that's all I want to do. So if these tapes can get me there and then I'm safely back home, then let's do it.
Apparently they can. But here's the thing. Don't get too excited. According to the Monroe Institute, less than 5% of participants can reach those higher levels or focuses. It takes a lot more than just listening to tapes. You have to become pretty adept at meditating, like monk level meditation.
I'm too anxious for that.
As someone who has had the desire to meditate their entire life and barely ever gets a good meditation in, easier said than done.
Yep. I feel very similar. I've gotten better, especially as I'm doing like more witchy practice in my life, but my anxious thoughts intrude way too often. I'm like, nightmare. I will never be monk level. Damn it.
Before I leave the gateway process and go to the next portion, I did want to make sure we touch on the fact that there is a missing page.
What's on the page?
We don't know. It's page 25 though.
All right, page 25. We're after you.
Well, it sucks too because page 24 ends with the sentence, and the eternal thought or concept of self, which results from this self-consciousness, serves the, boom, we're on page 26, serves the what? The gods? The lizard people? The...
Satan?
Serves what? Serves who?
Bob's Burgers? Where? Like, what does it mean?
Diet spaghetti? Like, what are we talking about?
Diet spaghetti? I'd be okay with it serving diet spaghetti.
Same.
Like, we need it. Yeah, I don't like that, because what if somebody got super into this and then it was like, I have been serving the lizard people and now I will only respond to their orders. And it's like, well, we didn't know that that's where
we
it
didn't
was like
know. We just kept doing this and we didn't know.
Page 25 was missing.
There have been... change.org petitions. There have been Freedom of Information Act requests demanding the release of the missing page. And in 2019, the CIA finally responded to these requests and basically said they didn't omit anything. They never had the page to begin with.
I don't believe it.
I don't know if I believe it either, but they did say, like,
maybe.
If the original report exists, it would be owned by the United States Army. So good fucking luck in that. That's not going to happen.
We're never going to see it.
Never going to see it. It's gone.
No, you're never going to get it.
No, you're never going to get it. So while I was researching the gateway process, because let's not forget, we still have to get to a dance, and transcending space-time, all this wacko stuff, the Monroe Institute breaks it all down. And no, I will not try to explain it because that would require understanding it myself. But essentially, it has a lot to do with wave oscillation. And theoretically, if the human consciousness wave pattern reaches a high enough frequency, the human consciousness can dip below a certain state, but above a state of total rest and can transcend space-time. Then I found out. I'm so mad that this is not more well known. NASA has this problem when pilots are exposed to G-forces in flight and in their centrifuges. So during rapid acceleration, the pilot's blood flows into their lower extremities and away from their brains, and that lack of oxygen leads to a period of unconsciousness that lasts about 12 seconds, followed by another 12 seconds of disorientation. And that can be crazy dangerous because that's 24 whole seconds that you don't have control over your aircraft while you're flying a jet.
And you're in the air.
And that's just the average. Some pilots get knocked out for way longer. Like, it's just average 24 seconds.
Well, I was so uncomfortable. As much as I love the Top Gun movies, I was so uncomfortable watching them like go up into the G-forces. I don't know for anyone, if you haven't seen the movie, like the pilots have to do like breathing exercises to try and avoid it, where they're like like doing these crazy blowouts of air, and then they still pass out anyway. But I'm like, you are in the air,
You're
sir.
Flying a jet.
So anyway, yeah, it's always made me super uncomfy, but...
Well, this should make you more uncomfy. What's crazy is that when the pilots are asked to describe their symptoms that they experience while in the centrifuge or in flight, they all started telling similar stories. First, they would get tunnel vision, which is expected before a blackout. But then, when they were unconscious, they would experience these short, extremely vivid dreams. They started calling them dreamlets because they were very short, but like so vivid.
Cute name though. Sorry.
Cute name though. Sorry about it.
Dreamlet.
Usually the dreams were about past experiences, or they would see their friends and family. And a significant number of pilots describe out-of-body experiences as well, floating above their planes and looking down at their bodies. Some of them see a bright white light. There's a feeling of warmth and euphoria. And the guy who reported this is Dr. James Winery. He's a retired Air Force Major General who specializes in aerospace medicine and essentially dedicated his career to making flying safe for human beings. And he did take these findings to the Air Force, but they were not interested.
Cool. We hate making things safe.
Regardless, this man is now a leading authority on out-of-body experiences simply because he's literally dealt with them for over 30 years.
Like, this is his career.
All of these pilots who go in those crazy centrifuges and fly and they pass out and they experience these strange things that happen to them, they leave their body. Like, that's huge news. Why
that
are we
is
not
a
talking
big
about
deal.
This?
Can we take it more seriously? Please.
No,
I
they
cannot.
don't care.
Why does no one care?
Finally, my rabbit hole ends further back in time than anything we've discussed, all the way back in the 13th century, with a scholar, mystic, and religious teacher and poet, Halal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi, or as most people know him, Rumi, the poet. Have you heard the name?
Yes.
Beautiful poetry. He was a Muslim. His branch of Islam was called Sufism, which is still very popular to this day, but it's mostly about developing spirituality within oneself and focusing inward and finding God there. Mm-hmm. Rumi also believed that each person is an architect of their own environment and can change the world from within, and that each human is the universe experiencing itself, which is wild for me to read coming from the 13th century because that's still relative to spirituality today. I totally believe in that.
I was like 1000%.
Wow,
I feel like you were even just you posted recently about one of our, sometimes we post little blurbs from past episodes just to, remind you guys that we're a fabulous show. And you talked about karma and how we've misunderstood it for so long. And a lot of karma is like, do like the correct internal work, and that will like bring in good for you, because like that is going to translate outward and then bring stuff in for you. And so I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like the fact that in the 13th century, anyway, it just, I know. I'm like rambling now, but I'm like, I just love hearing that. It's been going on that long.
13th century, like religious Muslim, religious
and
people.
It's so relative to
it's crazy. But something Rumi gave the world, aside from like amazing poetry and religious and spiritualist wisdom, specifically the Sufis, was something called the whirling dervishes. Have you ever heard of the whirling dervishes?
Yes, but everything you've said, I'm like, why? And I'm like, it sounds like a band name, first of all, but I know it's not. Okay, whirling dervishes.
Now, there's a lot that goes into Sufi whirling, the reciting of an Islamic prayer, specific clothing, symbolism, etc. But the main part of the practice is the whirling. You've seen this dance before.
Yes.
It's where like a bunch of people are on the stage and they're all whirling. Somehow they don't fucking hit each other.
Yes. Okay.
And all it is just swirling, 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 swirling. They spin their bodies in these repetitive circles in order to reach what they call an ecstatic trance.
Oh, ecstatic trance.
While performing this dance meditation, the dervishes have experienced clairvoyance, levitation, hearing the sounds of the hidden world in the cosmos, other dimensions, attaining higher knowledge, and even meeting God.
Just from twirling.
So, after all of that, from American Airlines Flight 191 to a 13th century poet.
That's where we began.
Out-of-body experiences are very real, and all you need to do to achieve them, apparently, is to listen to some tapes and swirl and swirl and swirl and swirl and swirl.
Swirl in some circles, listen to some tapes, and you too
can leave
shall
your
meet
body.
God. And this is actually like the perfect advertisement for the bonus-ode that Julia and I did recently. We were talking about, I can't remember if it was last month or this month, but I'm like, I actually think they kind of blended together in a nice way. But we were talking about altered states of consciousness being under anesthesia, because we're always talking about like the medical world. And we did a pretty deep dive on like how crazy some people's experiences are when they're under anesthesia, going from out of body experiences to being fully awake during the surgery and feeling like they are speaking to the surgeon and to the nurses in the room, but that their body is actually just laying silently. But they're like, I was screaming, trying to tell them something. And like, it just, that all of these stories are making me feel that, where it is like, you can't explain it to anyone in a way that they will understand unless they have experienced it
themselves.
Yeah, but it's like there is something to that.
I think this is extremely topical for us, because with all this information on top of all the crazy shit going on the ranches, involving the Army and CIA, like the Black Forest, Colorado cabin activity where he's seeing apparitions of modern day soldiers. At this point, I don't think you could convince me that they aren't experimenting with some absolutely batshit paranormal stuff.
I actually think they are too, because remember how I can't believe we haven't followed up on this, because I've been thinking it ever since we did that episode. Like, you know how you, I think, experienced this too when you were editing the episode. You can't like find any recent updates on it. Mm-hmm. It was like this guy was like, hey, listen, everything's insane.
Weird
and then it just went quiet. And now it's like a super on guard, like no trespassing property that like if you even get close, it's like you will be shot on sight. But there's no updates from anyone in this family. And I am like, that is so sus.
Well,
and it makes me think that the government came in and was like, keep quiet.
Either shut up or, hey, we have a cool opportunity for you to get several $1 million.
Here's all this money as we experiment. Yeah, but I've like, ever since that episode, I thought about it more and I was like, why aren't there updates? Oh, it's because what we were fearing is true.
Well, especially because he was saying, you know, like, I'm seeing what seems like the apparitions of soldiers, but it's modern day soldiers. It's not like, oh, it's Civil War soldiers. It's modern day soldiers. So it's like, what if it's their consciousness? What if they are asleep in the base a couple miles away and they are astral projecting because they're practicing their crazy CIA gateway experience shit?
I know.
But I just think it's crazy that like all the way back in the 13th century, someone discovered that we can get to this altered state by spinning.
And that goes along
NASA
with pilots and
I just had so much fun.
No, that was such a fun rabbit hole. And I'm also just like, okay, and like I wish I understood anesthesia more, like what the medicine is doing, because I'm like, is it sending your brain into the same spin?
Though, no one understands.
Because I'm like, it's medicine that is literally like tricking your brain so that you can't feel your body. And that in itself upsets me, because I'm just like, what? I don't fully understand it, but I'm like, what?
All of our senses we don't have like the proper connection to them, because we think that like smells come from an external place.
Right.
But all smell is, and even all our sight is signals to our brain telling us what's happening.
It's all up here. I know, it's all signals.
There was an episode of Greg and Dana's podcast, of the Haunted Objects podcast. I think it was their most recent episode, which was just them like telling ghost stories. And they talked about this time that they were performing this investigation. I don't remember the details, but essentially Dana was smelling something really like horrific, and she didn't say anything because she didn't know if it was like it was like they had an audience that they were working with. She didn't know if it was a member of the audience. She didn't want to like be...
Yeah, I don't want to call somebody out.
Yeah, you don't want to call someone out, but she was like, it was horrible. This other woman also smelled it. And then afterwards, they talked to this woman, and she said, what's interesting is I don't have a sense of smell. I haven't had a sense of smell for years and years and years and years. I don't smell.
Whoa.
And she was like, and it was so real, and I smelled it. I like forgot that I didn't have a sense of smell for a second.
Whoa.
So Dana was basically saying like it changed my perception of the paranormal, because something was triggering her in her brain, that there was a smell.
It was a brain thing.
It wasn't the physical action of smelling, which makes me think of Paranormal Activity, and the fact that like seeing a spirit, like you can see it and it can actually be happening in your head, almost like a psychic vision, which is why I can hear and see something and be in the same room with someone who doesn't hear or see it.
Who is not. Yeah, because this is how your brain
it's actually
is
happening.
It's like your signals. Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about.
I know. It's just like, it is a whole new way to look at it that like takes a minute to process. It is so crazy.
I love this show. I love doing this show.
This. I know. I'm like, I am so excited about everything. And like, I love the connection of like all of our stories. Yeah. This is so good.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, let's wrap it up.
Gosh, what a good rabbit hole.
This was a great episode. I loved it. We're going to spin the wheel.
Oh boy.
But in the meantime, please join our Patreon if you have an extra $1, $5, or $10 to give a show that you really like, because we could use the help producing this show, and we want to stay ad-free as long as possible, because I fucking hate ads and I can't handle it. So www.patreon.com/keepitweird podcast, and apparently they're not giving us good ads because they're still posting weird fucking political ads in front of our show, but I'm not gonna get into it. You ready to spin? I
mean, I always get nervous, but yes.
Same. Spinning the wheel. Ooh. Oh no, it's a random question again.
God.
How does this happen?
So awful. All right, let me pull it up. Do you have anything else you want to say to the listeners?
Yeah, I want to say that we are going to have some really, really, really fucking awesome Halloween shirts this season that are going to be coming out in a couple weeks. Well, by the time you're listening to this, it's the 13th. They might already be out by now, but you should absolutely get one. They're so cool. I'm not going to say much about it, but www.keepitweird.podcast.com/merch. They are, of course, designed by Billy Roach, the best person ever. Also, please start sending in bibliomancy questions for our Halloween special. Lauren, if you would like to join us. We are going to be performing bibliomancy for the Patreon again.
Billy?
No! It's me, Amy, and Leah, and you, if you would like.
Oh! I want to come! The last name I heard you say was Billy, because I was focusing on pulling up my document.
Well, you know, of course, it's Halloween, so we're definitely going to have a Billy episode. And I'm not sure what we're doing yet, but...
If I'm not coming for bibliomancy, I'm quitting the show. That's not true, but I do want to come.
Okay. Question, read all about it. Lauren's got another question. We're gonna talk about it. Go questions.
I think I know your answer to this, but
okay.
I would struggle with it more than I thought. But which would you choose? Be alive and alone, or about to die with a group of friends?
What?
Would you rather stay alive for who knows how long, but be alone and in solitude, or about to die, but with a group of friends, so that you could die with company, people you love, be in it together?
I see what you're saying. So, like, let's say this is the end of the world or like the zombie apocalypse. Would I rather be alone, but like kind of survive and like eventually die of natural causes or some shit, or be with a group of friends, but like for sure be dying?
Yes, but like at least you get to go out with the love. So actually, I don't know the answer to the question because I could also see you being like, well, if we're going to go down, let's have a party. But I could also see you being like, I want to be a witch in the woods.
Damn.
I know. It's darker. It should have gone with sillier.
It's a hard one because the solitude sounds like incredible. But for how long are you alone? Yeah, I feel like I would lose it quite. And like, what are my amenities? Am I alone with Netflix?
And that's when the mind starts to spiral, which is why I think I would say die with a group of friends. And I would just be like, guys, let's get super drunk and high. Sushi. And then die.
Sushi, do heroin.
Sushi. Let's do some casual heroin because we're going to die anyway.
That's my plan. If I live to be like 88, which like, God forbid, I'm sorry, but like that's too old. No offense to everyone's grandparents who you want to live forever. It's too old.
I know.
If I live to be that old, like, hello, heroin. Or, you know, it's going to be the future. So it's probably some like weird AI synthesized drug. But like, I'm doing it. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to go out on my own terms and I'm going to try drugs. So yeah, let's do friends then. Because that sounds like way more fun. Yeah. Let's go out with a bang.
Unless I just get to like have all the junk food in the world and endless bingeable shows, and then I want to live in a cottage out in the woods, like, and be alone forever for sure. Like that sounds great. But
yeah, it depends on the details. So, what are the deets?
Yeah, there's a little caveat, like only with amenities.
Yeah,
then we'd choose alone.
Then maybe,
but otherwise, like let's just do some hard drugs and die.
The end. And
I feel like that was the spirit.
That was the spirit being like, don't do drugs. That was the spirit of the DARE officer that came to your school in grade school. Like, what did I say?
I said
that drugs are bad. Anyways, we love you guys. We hope you have a lovely Friday the 13th. Nothing unlucky happens to you ever, ever, ever in your whole life. And we'll see you soon. Keep it weird.